Man, I hate fractions. I don't know how to add these two together. I need someone to explain it to me.
Here I come to save the day. All you need to do is get a common denominator.
So, in today's lesson, we will be adding and subtracting fractions. We will first do some examples where they all have the same denominator. All of these will have the same denominator. So we will add some, and then we will subtract some, and then I'm going to throw in some mixed numbers. And then we're going to do that same thing, except all of these will have different denominators. But we will add and subtract and then throw in some mixed numbers. Here's our first example. We have two fractions that we are adding, and they have the same denominator. So both have the denominator of 8. So this is nice and easy to get started with. All you have to do, add the numerators together and keep the denominator. So 5 plus 1 is 6, but you just keep the denominator of 8. And now you just have to simplify. You can cut both 6 and 8 in half to give you 3/4. Here we have the same idea, except we are subtracting, but we have the same denominator again, both 5s, but now we're subtracting. What you're going to do is 3 minus 1, keep the denominator, so 3 minus 1 is 2, keep the denominator 5, and then look to simplify, but this one is already simplified. So you're all done with that one. Now, here's an example where you are adding two mixed numbers. And then up here I wrote method A because there are two different ways that you can add and subtract mixed numbers. And I will show you both, and then you get to decide which way you like better. So for this one, the first way you can do this, you've got the whole numbers in front and then the fractions. What you can do is add the whole numbers first. 2 plus 4 is 6. And then you can worry about adding the fractions. So we have 3/4 plus 3/4, same denominator, so you just add the top. 3 plus 3 is 6. So we have 6 and 6/4. But we're not done because look at our fraction. It's improper. So we're going to rewrite this. We have the whole number in front, 6, and then 6/4 we're going to change it to a mixed number. 6/4 becomes 1 and 2/4 left over. And now add your whole numbers together, so you have 7, and simplify your fraction so it's 7.5. Okay, here's our last example where we have the same denominator and we have two mixed numbers, and here's the other way, method B, that you can use to add mixed numbers. So instead of breaking them apart and adding the whole numbers and then the fractions, what you can do is change them both to improper fractions. So for the first one, you're going to do 1 times 3 plus 2. So 1 times 3 is 3, plus 2 is 5. So 5 changes in the numerator, denominator stays the same. And now the second one, 2 times 3 is 6, and 6 plus 2 is 8. So we have 8/3. 5/3 plus 8/3. Add the top, 5 plus 8 is 13. So we have 13/3. And then your final step is now to just change it back to a mixed fraction. 3 goes into 13 4 times, and 4 times 3 is 12, which will leave us with 1 left over. 4 1/3 is our answer.
Common denominators, here I come.
Alright, now we're going to be adding fractions with different denominators. We have 5 and we have 3. So the only way to do this is we have to create our own common denominators. So you want to think about multiples of our current ones. You want to think about 3. What are all the multiples of 3? And 5, what are all the multiples of 5? And then which one do they have in common? One easy way to think about it, you could just do, well, let's see, what is 3 times 5? It's 15. So I could get a common denominator of 15. And to do this, go back to your 5 and think about what do I need to multiply 5 by to get 15? I need to multiply that by 3. And then over here I have 3. What do I need to multiply that 3 by to get 15? I will multiply that by 5. However, whatever you do to a denominator, you have to do to the numerator. So I also have to multiply the 4 by 3, and then over here, multiply the 2 by 5. So let's do that, and then we can continue. Okay, so now I have a common denominator of 15, and now I can add my two fractions by adding the numerators. 12 plus 10 is 22, and that's 22 fifteenths, which is improper, so let's change it to a mixed. 15 goes into 22 once, with how many left over? 7. And then the denominator of 15 stays the same. And that is simplified. 1 7/15. Okay, same idea, except we will be subtracting. But first we need to get that common denominator. So we have 6 and we have 12. In this case, you don't need to multiply both fractions by something because you can turn 6 into the other denominator, 12. And you would do that by simply multiplying by 2. And whatever you do to the denominator, you must do to the numerator times 2. So we now have 7/12 minus 2/12. So with that common denominator, we can subtract our numerator. 7 minus 2 is 5. So 5/12. Look to simplify, but it is already fully simplified. So we have our answer. Okay, adding two fractions with different denominators. This time they're mixed numbers. And remember, there's two ways that you can go about adding and subtracting mixed numbers. The first one, you can break it apart where you add the whole numbers together and then add the fractions together. So if we add the whole numbers together, 2 plus 5 is 7. And now we have to think about what is 1/2 plus 1/3. Let's get a common denominator. Let's see, I know both 2 and 3 go evenly into the number 6. So if I want to change my denominator to 6, I'd have to multiply the 2 by 3, and then the 3 by 2, and whatever you do to the denominator, you must do to the numerator. So we should get 3/6 plus 2/6 that you can add the numerators. 3 plus 2 is 5/6. So we have the whole number 7, and then we added our fractions together to get 5/6. So our answer is 7 and 5/6. Okay, here's our last example, subtracting mixed numbers using the second method. And the second method is where you change both of your fractions to improper first. So 1 times 2 plus 1, we have 3/2. And then 2 times 5 is 10, plus 4 is 14. So we have 14/5, and we are subtracting. We need to get a common denominator. Both 2 and 5 go evenly into 10. So I'm going to multiply my 2 by 5 to get 10, and my 5 by 2 to get 10, and then what you do to the denominator you must also do to the numerator. So we now have 15 over 10 minus 28 over 10, and we can subtract the numerators. So 15 minus 28, you should recognize that you will get a negative number. Okay, so if you look above, we have 15 minus 28. When you're subtracting, remember you can think about adding the opposite. And now we have different signs, so you subtract, keep the sign of the larger number, so it's going to be negative, and 28 minus 15 is 13. So we will have a negative 13 in our numerator all over 10. And now we just have to change that to mixed, so it's negative 1 and 3/10. And that is our answer. And we have learned every method of adding and subtracting fractions, common denominators, different denominators, mixed numbers. You can do it all. Good luck.